Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how I make my thumbnails. Now the thing is, I actually mainly do this on my iPad because one of the apps is only available on the iPad, but I do have some other photos for you guys who do edit on just your phone, specifically iPhones. Some apps that I have on here you can also use to make thumbnails on your phones. So keep on watching if you want to know some more apps that I also use that is also available on your phone. Now first thing, I'm going to dive into some of examples of what my thumbnails look like so you guys can basically see a gist of how my thumbnails work. So I'm going to go into Procreate. That is the main app that I use for thumbnails. That's just because it has so many features and it just really opens up a whole world of creating thumbnails and things like that. So here is a stack of all types of thumbnails that I've made in the past. Now I would say I have two main types of thumbnails. One is just a bunch of graphics. So that is, for example, like these. None of this is like photos taken. They're just graphics that I get from the internet or something that I made myself. Here's another example. I have a bunch of them here. And then my other type of thumbnail is one using a photo. So that would be something like this. All of these have photos in them that I edit on top of. Here are some more. This one, all of these. So these are the two basic types of thumbnails that I use in my videos. So I'm going to go over the main apps that I use now for my thumbnails. And there are quite a few. I would say I use Procreate for 80% of the things I do on my thumbnails. So Procreate is probably my main source of making a thumbnail, just because you have so many features, so many manipulation on photos and graphics and things like that, just makes it so much easier. And then obviously I have some other odd apps for maybe photo editing or just getting some cool other effects. So one thing is, let's go into this thumbnail. As you can see, I have this kind of brushstroke effect on the back of these texts, and that's something I do in a different app that's not available on Procreate. And that's also something you can have on your phone or something. So yeah, let's go into other apps that I do use for thumbnails. So I'm going to go into this folder here that says Photo. And here you can see the main apps I use for thumbnails. And here you can see the main third-party apps I use for thumbnails. So number one is Over. Over is a very basic photo editing app. So I'm going to go on this plus button here and you can see you have some templates here, but I almost never use that. What I usually do is I click on transparent and then I go here to the sizes and I select YouTube thumbnail. So that would be this one here because it's 1280 by 720. If you did not know, that is the YouTube thumbnail size. And then I would just import any image here that I want to use in my thumbnail. This is usually if I have a photo that I want to edit. So for example, I used this recently in a thumbnail, so then I can just do that. Then with this app I can also add maybe a filter. I don't always use this app's filters. They have some cool ones, but a lot of them you need to pay for to actually get a good filter. You can also on here like adjust exposure and things like that. I don't always do that, but this is a go-to app if I need to. You can crop, size, add a shadow, things like that. And you can also add text here at the bottom. As you can see, you can add some text and they have some cool fonts on here as well, but not a very big variety of fonts. Usually in Over, like I said, I just select the YouTube size and then I just import the photo. This is just so I know that my photo is the right size for YouTube thumbnail. That's the basic gist of what I use Over for. So I'm just going to click on save for this image for now. This is going to be my example image for creating thumbnails. Then we have here Phonto. I'm pretty sure you know what Phonto is if you have made thumbnails in the past on your phones. Phonto is probably one of my favorite apps to, one, get a filter, and two, get text over my photos. So Phonto was my main source of making thumbnails before I got my iPad and had Procreate. So Phonto is really one of my favorite apps of all times. So here you can see down here you have some filters, and my go-to filter is Fade. I use it in my Instagram posts, I use it for thumbnails. I just really love the look of this filter. Anyway, this is basically what I do, and then I also have text available here. So I've downloaded some of my favorite fonts on here that I can use for thumbnails. So that's mainly what I use Phonto for. I don't use it so much for text anymore, mostly just for the filter, just because I use Procreate now to also add text. Then some of these other apps like Eraser, that's just to erase the background of any photo and make it a PNG. Photoshop Express I don't really use. Lightroom I use sometimes, not really. Then Adobe Sketch is my next big go-to for thumbnails. This is that thing that I showed you in my previous thumbnail where I have this kind of paint stroke effect here at the back of this text. So the way I do that is I'm going to go back into Adobe Sketch. I just create a new project and then I just select like square or something. Then usually a big thing is you need to hide this white background here. You just click on the background icon here, tap on it again, then this eye, click on that so that it won't be visible anymore. Or you can just double tap on the background icon here to also make it visible or invisible. So if you see these blocks as the background, that means your photo doesn't have a background. So the brush that I use is this one right here. I believe it's called the thick acrylic. And then I just select any color that I want. So say I would just want a white stroke. I can also size it here. So here you can see I can select my size. And you can do this with your finger, like on your phone, or you can like use the Apple Pencil if you have one. And then I just make my strokes. And then once I'm done with that, I can click here on the top and save that image. So I'm gonna go into Procreate now and import that photo that I already saved from Phonto with a filter over it. I'm gonna add my stroke effect. So I'm gonna click on this tools bar here and click on add, and then I'm gonna select insert a photo. So I've selected this. I can resize it, put it anywhere, and I can add text over it. So I'm gonna add text by clicking here again. I'm gonna select add text, and then I'm just gonna say how I make my thumbnails. Then I can also edit the style of the text. So I have a bunch of fonts here that they pre-installed, or I can use some of the fonts that I installed. So I usually like to use this font called Railway. I installed this into the app. So here you can see I have a few options. So I have extra light, things like that. But yeah, I have imported a lot of fonts in here. Let me know in the comments down below if you want me to do a video on all my favorite fonts to use. So I just choose any text with any kind of font. I usually just choose a nice color for it. I'm just gonna go with black for now. Another thing I love doing is adding a shadow to my text just to make it stand out a bit more. The way I do that is I duplicate that text layer and then I select rasterize, which means it's not just a text layer, you can draw over it whatever you want. And then I go here to the effects tab, select Gaussian blur. That means you're just gonna blur your text. So I'm gonna go like so, and then I just move it a bit to the right usually, so like so, and then it looks like I have my text kind of blurred out like with the shadow, and that usually just makes it stand out a bit more, make it look a bit more 3D. So this is the gist of a basic thumbnail for me. I can also add some other images I want. So if I want to add like maybe a app's logo, I can add it over by just adding an image over this. It's really straightforward. You can basically do all of this on Phonto, to be honest. This is not very advanced at all. You can just import a photo into Phonto. I'm going to show you guys real quick. You can go into Phonto. I have the image here. I'm going to select add image. Then I just add this stroke that I just made. I can size it like so. I can then also add some text, how I make my thumbnails. I can choose any font that I want. I can place it over here, size it again. Then I'm going to select my text again. I'm going to click on here on style. I'm going to say hairstyle again. And I'm going to go to shadow. I'm going to select black. And then again, you have the same kind of look. It has a shadow around it. I can also change the color of the text by clicking on style and just selecting black. And boom, you have actually the exact same thumbnail, just on another app. But I'm going to show you guys where I use Procreate to its abilities the most. So this usually goes in with all these type of creative thumbnails that only use graphics. So I'm going to go to this one as a good example. So I'm just gonna like hide all of this so you guys can see it clearer. So as you can see, this background I actually made on Procreate. I basically just chose the background color and then drew all these little pencils in. I actually just copy and pasted a bunch of them. So that's how I made the background myself. So here you can see that's the layer that I drew all the pencils on. This is just the background, and then I just added that over. So that's one of the big things I like to do on Procreate, is create background things like that you can't really do on other apps. Then what I did is I added some photos. Here you can see all the layers that I have. So this is for my logos that I added over. Big thing here is I added this background to it so it stands out a bit more. So you can see the Notability logo has a white background to make it stand out a bit more. Then here I'm gonna open this group. Here you can see I have added this over, so it's basically just an iPad that I got from the internet and an Apple Pencil that I put next to each other. Then we have some text. It's the same font that I used in the previous example, the railway font. And then also I added a blur to the text so it stands out a bit more, like I showed you guys previously. Then a big thing is I like using some of the creative brushes on Procreate to make things stand out a bit more. So in order to make the tablet stand out a bit more, I made this kind of scribble underneath it. So this is a type of brush that you get on Procreate that gives it this cool little gadget look. And then I also made a white one like this to make the text stand out a bit more. So that's where I use Procreate to its full ability when I do things like this. This is something you can't really do on other apps since it doesn't have these types of brushes that Procreate has. So here you can see all the brushes that I like to use. This was when you go to artistic and you go here to Terralia and tap on that, here you can see this is what it looks like if I scribble. It gives it kind of this jagged look. You can see that's what it looks like. So that's basically what I did for the background on this thumbnail. This is something you also see me often do in thumbnails. I have basically, here you're going to see in the layers, I have this iPhone here, this iPhone image that I got from the internet, and I add a screenshot from my video. So you'll see I actually did this in the video, explaining how to add photos over videos. This is also something I often do, is add just like this iPhone kind of animation here, because that's mainly what the video is about, is adding photos over your videos in iMovie, but using your iPhone and not like a computer iMovie or something like that. So that's also something that I often do in my thumbnails. And now you also know how to do that. So you basically just add any screenshot and then you add any iPhone PNG over that. I can honestly talk about this all day because there are so many different examples of things that you can do on Procreate or any thumbnail making app to make text stand out a bit more or just add a little graphic to it. This is an example of something that I added a lot of graphics to because that was the title of the video, is how I add doodles and handwritten text over my videos. And again, I doodled all over this thumbnail with a brush in Procreate. So yeah, let me know if you want even more tutorials on different types of thumbnails that you can do on Procreate. I would love to make that for you guys, since I enjoy making thumbnails on here. If this video was helpful or just very interesting for you to see, give this video a thumbs up and comment down below any other questions you might have for me regarding this topic. Definitely subscribe by clicking on the icon on the screen and click on the playlist to see all of my other tech related videos, and click on the video to my previously uploaded video. I love you guys so much, be weird and be proud of it.